Welcome Prime to Cybertron Command. What is going on?
Hello everybody, my name is NA Prime and welcome back to another video. And today we're going to be looking at Longarm from Transformers. My apologies. Today we're looking at Shockwave from Transformers Animated. Shockwave is a shape-shifting Decepticon who has two personas. His first persona is an Autobot named Longarm, who he uses as a way to climb the Autobot chain of command to become Chief Intel Bot of Autobots, and his other one is Shockwave, being himself, who, as previously mentioned, is a shape-shifting Decepticon and Megatron's most loyal servant. So, starting out here in the vehicle mode, we have him in his tank, which, believe it or not, is the first time we ever saw Shockwave as a tank. So, animated superiority, am I right? Here we have an image of how it looked in the show. The only issue I have is that there's some slight gappage and spacage right there. And then obviously the back of the tank also. And also the Decepticon insignia right here on the barrel wasn't entirely shown in the show. So aside from that, that's my only issue with it being accurate to the TV show. If I were to have any problems with the figure, I'd say that this right here, this entire back connection is kind of weird. So it only tabs in right there, and then if that comes loose, you don't have much of a tank back there anymore. Not really the best. I don't really like on how it just connects to that one part though. But also the hands underneath here, sometimes they like to scrape against the ground. It might just be my problem, but yeah, while I'm trying to roll him, they like to go against the ground, which creates some friction. Anyway, let's say hi to Longarm. Hi, Longarm! And then we have the giant turret up here. This is the electromagnet turret. I believe that's what it was called in the show. It can rotate around, although kind of have to raise it up a little bit so I can get past this little thing right here, since it kind of just is too low for it. But after you raise up the barrel, it can go full 360 all the way around. Although it's not on a ratchet like how Blitzwing was, it's on a little peg right there. So not the best in my opinion. Certainly at least compared to the ratchet that we had on Blitzwing. The barrel can go up and down, and then it can go side to side obviously. I don't know what those things are, but they're meant for tank mode. I don't know what they are though. And then these parts of his legs, they go up and down. I don't exactly like them because they kind of just hang right there, and they kind of create an issue in a different mode that we'll see soon, but I don't really like them. I wish they could have done something different. And then obviously we have Longarm there. Again, hi Longarm. And then for wheels, he wheels pretty good, pretty alright on a stable surface in my opinion. However, there's one problem, which is mine kinda leans to the left, but that's it. Anyway, time for some comparisons. Here's a comparison. United Legacy Bumblebee. Here he is next to him. I think it looks pretty good, pretty alright, pretty accurate to the show. Really happy with how it looks here. And then our next comparison is Blitzwing from our last review. So here he is, both of them being a Voyager. I think they look pretty equal. Shockwave certainly has some length and height on Blitzwing, just a little. But as we said previously, Blitzwing really condenses down, so yeah. But I think it looks pretty alright, honestly. And then we can turn him into Longarm's vehicle mode as well. So, first thing you want to do is raise the barrel and then put this down, so and that will pop out this little crane arm right here. And then you put these back. Still don't know what they are. Then you bring these tank treads down, and then also the back tank treads as well. And then here's where we're going to see that issue that I was bringing up earlier, was just that the legs aren't fully in line right here, so we kind of have to push them, but then those panels kind of are just like, they don't really have a spot to go, so I just raise them and leave them right there. That's the best I can do. But there is Longarm's little crane. It's basically Shockwave's H-Tank, but just stood up on 4 legs. It's kind of stupid, but I'm happy they were able to implement this mode into the figure. We have the obvious crane right here, which can actually be used to tow anything, such as this Bumblebee. So, yeah, thank you, Bumblebee. Thank you for the demonstration. Sadly, he does not have any wheels. He kind of just scoots along a stable surface. I don't exactly know why, but no wheels. The wheels are up there on the back, and then on the front, the wheels right there covered by the tank treads. No wheels, sadly, but he does a pretty alright job just scooting across the desk here. And in terms of accuracy, I think it was a pretty good job getting his crane mode translated. I only have one issue, but only one issue is I wish it was a little bit taller, but that's it. Our first comparison, here we have Bumblebee in his vehicle mode, obviously. And there's your sense of scale there. Giant crane compared to this tiny car. I think it's a pretty alright comparison. And then, here's Blitzwing again. Both are Voyagers, just as a reminder. So I'd say this is a pretty alright scale. Sadly, never got to see them both in the show together, but I think the scale is pretty alright. So, for transformation, the first thing you want to do is untab the arms right there from the middle. And then, if you wanna, I'd suggest doing it, take off the turret. It kind of gets in the way. And then you're going to want to put these things in the middle right down. Then you come to the legs and detach that right in the middle. And then straighten out the legs just like that. If it would straighten. Please! Please! Straighten! There we go. That's good. So straighten the legs, as I said. And then straighten them all the way out just like that. For a long arm, obviously, Autobot symbol. Sorry, I didn't do that already. But yeah. And then, next thing you want to do is bring these hips to 90-degree angles, sorta. And then you can close up the panels right here and flip these toesies out. Next, we're going to come to the arms here. Detach the forearm from the tank treads and just put it right where it goes. Just like there. Just right there. My bad. And then bring down the hands. And that's one arm. And then the other. Same on the other side. Forearm. Go right into it. Bring down the arm. Bring out the hand. And then bring that down. Bring down the shoulders. Kind of helps beef them up. And there's Longarm Prime. And just in case you wanted to, you can attach this to the back right here. We have an obvious Decepticon logo right there. So, not the best, but that's how they wanted the weapon storage, I guess. But, there we go. So, he's definitely a big guy. Not height-wise, but wide-wise, you know what I mean? Definitely very boxy compared to Shockwave. Here's a pose, and here's him worshipping Megatron, I guess. Okay. All around, all I gotta say is he's really good, really cool. You can simulate his power he had in the show by bringing these down and then pulling these tank treads up. And then also make sure to straighten out the legs, kind of helps give him structure to those. Just like that. And then we're going to pull down the arms here. And there you go. There's Longarm. His power was really just like extending himself. It's what gave him the name Longarm. Just becoming really long with all his limbs. Obviously, though, this is really just Shockwave's limbs as he is in robot mode. But yeah, it does a pretty good job displaying how just basically his main thing in the show. So anyway, back to regular Longarm here. We have some pretty not good articulation. We have a 360 in the shoulder right there. Then they can go up that much and down, not really that much. And then we kind of have an elbow right here. 90 only. that's about all you're going to get out of the elbow there. And then obviously same on the other side. You can push these tank treads forward. It's mainly for vehicle mode, so I don't exactly know what you'd use that for. But if you want to, go for it. He does not have a neck swivel, like, at all. He ain't got no neck. You can try to get him into Shockwave's neck, but not really. His legs can't really go back and forth. They're kind of hindered by the spacing right there. So no real back and forth. And then you can get side to side motion out of him. But you're going to have to put that hip back into a 90 degree. And then we have a knee bend right there that goes back. Can't really go too far back, but that's about all you're going to get out of it. And then his toes can go in, but that's mainly for transformation. And then obviously they can go out that far. So all around, it's a pretty good representation of Longarm, but it definitely isn't solid enough to be its own figure due to poor articulation and poor gimmicks and such, I guess. But it's pretty alright. Here's what Longarm looked like in the show. I think they did a pretty good job of putting it into this little figure. There's some certain issues, such as his face not being fully painted and some detailing issues, but aside from that, it's pretty good. For our first comparison, here we have Bumblebee, which I gotta say, this is kind of out of proportion in my opinion. I don't remember Longarm being that much taller than Bumblebee here in the show, but yeah, it might be a little off. Just a reminder that this Bumblebee is a deluxe, this Longarm is a Voyager. There's some size discrepancy, but it shouldn't be that bad. And then we have Voyager Blitzwing here. Looks pretty good in my opinion. Definitely scales well with him, sorta. So, going from Longarm to Shockwave, the first thing you want to do is flip the insignia so we know who we're going to. And then bring down the legs just like that, stretch them out, and then bring these tank treads up as before. Gotta tab them right in there, but straighten out the legs just to make sure that they tab in properly. Do the same on the other side. Bring these legs around, and then next thing we're going to do is go to the arms up here. Bring down the arm just like that. And then bring out the Nope, not going to do that. Nope, my apologies. Bring out the claw, just like that. And then flip the hand around. That'll give him his claws that he has. And I really like how they made the hand look like the claw. I think it's a pretty good job. Pull down the other arm. Flip the hand. And then bring down those claws again. Just like that. And then something I sometimes forget to do is going to these shoulders and flipping these out. I don't exactly know what they are, but it's important to make him look like Shockwave. And then bring up these shoulders, and then lastly we're going to pull up the head right here. Longarm's face goes into Shockwave's face, and then pull up these antennas. And then that is basically everything. This is our Shockwave, all transformed up and looking pretty good. Ready to maybe blast an Autobot or kill someone who tries to reveal his identity. But here are some poses and such. And as you can see, he is very, very long. All that stockiness from Longarm kind of goes into making Longarm just really long. Shockwave really long. So, overall, he's a pretty good figure in my opinion. I think he does a pretty good job looking like how he's supposed to look. And I don't know if any of you have this issue, but sometimes his neck can come up a little bit, and then you get a really loose head, like real loose. So if you have that problem, I suggest pushing his neck down a little bit and then into his body, and that'll keep the head pretty stable, pretty sturdy. Therefore, he won't be banging it around anymore. It's a lot more secure than how it was, so If you have a loose neck on your Shockwave, just make sure to push that in and it should be pretty good. I remember having this issue really bad when I first got this figure and I was so disappointed, but yeah, it's pretty good now. As for gimmicks, we already went over this sorta, you know, Shockwave, Longarm, but as for any more gimmicks, I wouldn't say he really has any more aside from just changing his physical form, but yeah, as said, his main gimmick is just mainly Longarm. As for articulation, we have a full 360 here in the shoulder, go all the way around. His shoulders can move, but that's mainly for Longarm. But if you want to do that, you can go ahead. And then we also have an elbow bend right here, 90 degrees. And then we have a wrist bend, I believe, sorta, just right there. Definitely more articulated than Longarm, thank God. And then same on the other side, 90-degree bend, and then bend in the wrist. And then his head goes kind of side to side, looking a little creepy. And then he can look up, down, and then a little more down if you dislocate that neck, sort of, but definitely more articulation than Longarm. As for the legs, we can go back and forward, and way more than we can do with Longarm, and it's mainly due to that point right there. So if we push this up right here, we can see that it kind of gets blocked by the body right there. So yeah, definitely way more articulated than Longarm was. We can also go out just like that, which is kind of unnecessary in my opinion, but you can basically do the full splits right there. And we have a knee bend right there, only 90 again. He has this weird hinge right here that is mainly for Longarm / transformation, but we can move this tread down and then get that just like in a 90-degree angle, sorta. I'm sure you could figure out some way to articulate it into a pose, but I can't figure it out for sure, but I definitely suggest going for it if you can, but definitely not meant for Shockwave here. Coming down, we have the toes again. They can go back, and then we have the heel, which can go in, and then it can come back out, just again. You can get some movement out of these, which help them do some poses, but not a lot, like nothing too big, you know? But he certainly is more articulated than most of the animated figures that I have. Our first comparison, here we have Legacy United Bumblebee, which, oh boy. Decepticons were portrayed as way bigger than Autobots, so I'd say this is pretty good sense of scale here. Definitely would not stack against current modern standards, as this is a Deluxe and Voyager, one step smaller, so definitely would not scale well today. And then here we have Blitzwing at the same time of release, sorta. And even for them both being a Voyager, this guy has way more length to him compared to Blitzwing here. So you can definitely get way taller with Shockwave. And here he is, how he looks in the show. Looks pretty good in my opinion. I believe they got him pretty accurate to how he looked. There's a little thing right here on his face that's mainly for Longarm, but it doesn't hinder Shockwave's mode too much in my opinion. And then we have the turret gun / tank gun, sorta. He used it in the show for a little bit, I believe. It plugs in right there, and he can do some stuff with it. But honestly, it's really heavy in his arm, honestly. Like, look at this. Well, actually, wait. There we go. It kind of just weighs down the arm a little in certain angles. It's definitely way bigger than it should be, in my opinion, for Shockwave. Maybe back in the day it worked better, but yeah, it's a little big in my opinion. And then you can store it right here on the back. Personally, I like to store it up just like that. I think it looks pretty cool. And that's basically it. Oh, and for anyone wondering, this is a Takara Tomy Shockwave, which is a recolor of the original Shockwave, but it's basically sort of the same thing. He's just got different paint application and a painted Decepticon and Autobot logo. So that's the main difference between this and the regular Shockwave. And then obviously Shockwave had different recolors, such as his Target recolor, and then the Takara Tomy recolor, and then his Hasbro recolor, which I will be collecting, by the way. So I'm going to keep an eye out for those. Maybe I'll make a video, maybe I'll not when I get those. It'd be pretty cool to see. But thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe and have a good day. Thank you guys so much.